servicing the area since 1977 with residential and commercial work.
Hello friends, welcome to Wayback Wednesday. I'm Randy Adcock. It's good of you to join us tonight. So glad that you've welcomed us into your home. We've got a lot to talk about tonight, and we've got some pictures to share with you too. Before we do, however, I just want to mention a couple things. You know, I had the great pleasure this past week, of meeting someone whose name you've heard me mention several times here on the show, Mr. Gene Herring. I didn't realize, I've seen him 100 times, I know. I'm one of these folks who likes to go out to the thrift stores and flea markets and those kind of things and just browse around for everything from junk to one man's treasure, as the old saying goes. But out at what used to be called the Good Old Boys Flea Mall, I think it's now called Tar River Flea Market or something like that. But there's, of course, several booths in there, and if you come to the front building, back kind of to the back left area of the building right there, on that back wall, in fact, there's a little small booth, and a gentleman in there has got a bunch of old coins and old currency, bills and so forth, and I didn't know it. I stopped in over the weekend to talk to him about some old coins and stuff, and I just happened to glance at his business card and it said Gene Herring. So we had a nice conversation. Super nice guy, very knowledgeable. Like many of us, he's a history buff, and if you're on the internet, and certainly if you're on Facebook, you've certainly read some of Gene's posts, and he's got, like myself, a wide interest, a lot of different things from, certainly from this area, and being retired, he says he's had a lot of time to go out and research and find pictures and track down stories, and so we had a good visit. It was good to finally put a name with a face. And so if you're out and about and want to go visit someone who's interesting to talk to, for sure, get on out there. He's out there, I think, on Saturday and Sunday, I think he told me. And he's got some really neat old coins too, if you're into that kind of stuff. Old coins, old dollar bills, and in fact he's got I think a $500 bill out there, and shoot, I forgot now. But anyway, he's got just a lot of interesting stuff that you may find of interest. As is usually the case with our show each week, a lot of the content is either generated by or certainly suggested by the viewers, and that's certainly the case this week too. If you remember, I mentioned last week we've had a couple of viewers who've submitted some information to us, and we're going to show you some pictures tonight. Mr. Wallace Abernathy had shared with me a couple of weeks ago, and I meant to have him on last week's show, and I rushed to get ready for the show. I didn't get a chance to get them on, so I've got those tonight. We're going to share a little bit of North Carolina history with you, and also had a visit last week from a gentleman, Mr. Ronald Spain, who's an avid viewer of the show, and he asked me to put out some information. I guess a better word would be an inquiry or a request. If anyone remembers anything about, he told me a story about, he grew up over not too far from the intersection of Nashville Road, and I guess that's Raleigh Road goes by there. Many of you from Rocky Mountain know about Teeny Johnson's station over there on the corner, and anyway, not too far from that Teeny Johnson station, I guess on the opposite side of the street, headed, from Teeny it would be headed east. There was supposedly a building that was built, a storage building, that was in the shape of like a jug, an old whiskey jug. Now, I got to say, that was before my time. I don't remember anything about that, but Mr. Spain had kind of sketched out an image for me, and his image looked like a whiskey jug, like the old little brown jug you heard the song about. And supposedly this gentleman built this building out of brick and then covered it, I guess, in stucco and painted the top brown, so it apparently looked just like a little brown jug. And it was used as a storage building. So if anyone remembers that or remembers anything about it, I have tried to find pictures. I did not get a chance to get by the public library since last week's show. That was certainly something I wanted to do. for a couple of reasons. I wanted to research this. I wanted to research the military plane that run off the runway and crossed the Tar River over there by Bob Melton's, and I didn't get a chance to get to the library at all. So my apologies for those that were looking for information to follow up on that. It is on my radar, and I will continue to try to get to the library and see if I can find some information about both of those topics. But Mr. Spain said he remembers it very vividly. I guess he grew up a couple blocks from that area, and so I said, well, surely someone will remember that. So if you got any information or any memories of a little storage building, and I'm guessing it was round, of course, so I'm guessing it was probably somewhere 10 or 12 feet in diameter. I would guess 10 or 12 feet tall maybe. But in any case, it was supposedly right there beside the home on Nashville Road, a couple of blocks or so east of the intersection of Nashville Road and Raleigh Road. I guess that area is just a little bit east of what's called Williford Town by a lot of people. But anyway, if you know anything about it, give us a call. 407-1111 is our number. We'll be taking your calls tonight, of course, all during the show. I suspect, too, that there's probably some pictures of this thing somewhere. And so, as I said, if I get a chance to get to the library and can dig some pictures up, I'll share them with you in a future show. But I did not get a chance to get by there, and again, that was something I hope to do, just get a chance to. I did want to share a couple of pictures with you, and I mentioned to Lee at the top before the show started tonight, and intended to scan these pictures, and I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to do that. I was really rushed today. It was a really busy day for me, and I was a little bit short in time to trying to prepare for the night show. But Mr. Spain brought these two pictures by, and one of them, and Lee, I'm going to just hold this up and see if you can zoom in on this. I'm not sure if you can get it or not, but this picture right here, I'm going to try to, well, there you go. Let me get the screen centered there. There we go. Folks, believe it or not, that's a frog. That's the biggest frog I've ever seen in my life, and I've seen some pretty big frogs. And I'm not exactly sure where this was captured or taken. It looks to be perhaps an old farm pond somewhere, but and I'm not even sure who the gentleman is that was holding the frog. Maybe somebody recognized the gentleman, but my understanding is it was somewhere around this part of the state, somewhere in Nash-Edgecombe County, somewhere around here. But that's got to be one of the biggest frogs I've ever seen in my life. I didn't know they grew that big anywhere around here. But if that don't amaze you, take a look at this here, and I'm not sure how clear this will be. Maybe I could hold it this way. Oop, that's upside down. It was obviously, there you go, that's a better picture. This is an eastern diamondback rattlesnake, which is, if I'm not mistaken, the largest venomous snake in North Carolina. In fact, it's one of the largest venomous snakes on the East Coast. It's obviously a distant cousin of the western diamondback rattler from out in the western part of the country. But this old boy here was supposedly someone not too far from here took this picture. I'm not exactly sure where it was taken at, but that's a big old snake, and I wish we had something to use as a reference, but it looks to be probably 3 or 4 inches in diameter, and they get that big. I've done a little bit of research and reading about eastern diamondback rattlesnakes, and they do get, I'm not dropping out of view here, they do get really big. So anyway, I wanted to share those with you, and thank Mr. Spain for bringing those to me. There was actually another picture too, and I forgot to bring it. It was a picture of some rattlesnake tails. And you know, that's something, if you remember from last week's show, I was down with a friend, and I went down to Portsmouth Island from the 15th to the, I guess, 19th or so of this month. Had a great trip, but we were talking to a couple of the guys who are regulars down there, who go down there and go camping and fishing and spend quite a bit of time throughout the year down there. And two things that were brought up during the conversation that I would have never expected. One was there are two varieties of rattlesnakes on Portsmouth Island, one being the eastern diamondback rattlesnake and the other being the pygmy rattlesnake. Both have been sighted multiple times on Portsmouth Island, and so they are out there. The other thing that surprised me immensely was the fact that there have been black bears spotted out there fairly recently. Now the consensus seems to be that they probably swam from the mainland across the little channel there, across the sound there, to get to the island, but nonetheless there have been black bears spotted on Portsmouth Island. So not that relates to history or anything, it was just something I thought was neat, and when Mr. Spain brought this picture, this eastern diamondback rattlesnake behind, it kind of reminded me of what we've been told about Portsmouth Island. Okay, so I guess now, Lee, let's go ahead. I mentioned to you tonight that we've got some pictures. while I was looking around for pictures tonight, I stumbled across a few pictures. I don't know, it's maybe 8 or 10, 7 to be exact, I think, that were actually from the what was referred to as the Spanish flu pandemic that actually ran from around 1916, 1917 up to about 1920. You mostly hear about it as being the flu of 1918, but it actually started prior to then and it ran beyond 1918. Some 50 million people worldwide died from the Spanish flu, and there's a cemetery up north of Rocky Mount off 301 up there, just north of Battleboro before you get into the Whitakers area up there, that I've got some family members buried up in there. And several years ago when we went, my dad and I went up there, we were looking at old gravestones and taking pictures and so forth. There was a gravesite up there for an infant that died. I think he was like 2 months old when he died, but he was born in 1918 and caught the flu and of course passed away. And so anyway, as I was looking for a picture for tonight's show, I stumbled across a collection of pictures from the Spanish flu, and I got a little bit of history about the Spanish flu while I was looking at these pictures. So, Lee, if you would, let's go ahead and bring up the first one. This is actually an advertisement, and it struck me because this was, again, from 1918, and it says, to prevent influenza, and you can read there on the screen, it says, do not take any person's breath, keep the mouth and teeth clean, avoid those that cough and, I guess that's, what does that say, Lee? Sneeze, cough and sneeze. Don't visit poorly ventilated places, keep warm, get fresh air and sunshine, don't use common drinking cups, towels, etc. Cover your mouth when you cough and sneeze. Avoid worry, fear, and fatigue. Stay at home if you have a cold. Walk to your work or office. In sick rooms, wear a gauze mask like the one in illustration here. So in 1918, they ironically were kind of combating the Spanish flu in a very similar manner to what we're doing today with the COVID-19. I thought it was interesting that they did not suggest quarantine. Obviously, stay at home if you're sick, but as far as, closing businesses, and in hindsight, perhaps that could have been why the Spanish flu was so deadly. As I said, 50 million people worldwide died from it, and a good many of those were actually soldiers who, of course, fought in World War II. And so this next picture, Lee, if you want to put that next one up there, this next picture was actually taken at Camp Funston in Kansas in 1918, and these were soldiers in an influenza ward. And it's a miracle that there weren't more died if this was the way patients were treated. I mean, they're literally feet apart from each other, no isolation with other patients. As you can see, there's one big gigantic open ward there, and it's no wonder there was not millions more died if this was and of course, this was 100 years ago, so medical technology had certainly had a long way to go to develop to where we are now, and I guess they were doing the best they could with what they had to work with. But this was a Army camp, Camp Funston, as I said, in Kansas in 1918, and apparently from what I was reading, this flu really wreaked havoc on soldiers around the world. In fact, the next picture, Lee, let's pull this next picture up here. This is actually King Alfonso, the Spanish king, and a little interesting tidbit about King Alfonso was that Spain stayed neutral in World War II. They chose not to get involved, and they didn't, get involved in any fighting on any side. And so, but during the conflict, during World War I, King Alfonso, he was actually King Alfonso VIII. Let me clarify that. But he got sick. Whether it was a flu or not, we won't ever know. But the fact that he was, sick, and that was major news. Obviously, the King of Spain was very, very sick. He did survive, but the Spanish flu was actually named after him because he got sick just about the same time this flu took off and became widespread around the world. And it was even suggested that it's unlikely that this Spanish flu actually started in Spain, but to this day, Spain got credit for having the world's most deadliest, or at least the origin of the world's most deadliest pandemic being the Spanish flu. So anyway, all right, Lee, let's go to the next picture then. And I think this next one, yeah, this is actually another U.S. Army hospital in France. It was actually referred to as U.S. Army Hospital number 45. So I'm not sure how many hospitals they had just dealing specifically with the Spanish flu in 1918. But again, you can see there was basically one big open ward, very little isolation between patients, and it's just a miracle that more didn't die with the abysmal lack of sanitation and cleanliness and so forth. I mean, these guys were really sitting on top of each other in these wards, battling this flu. So, okay. All right, Lee, let's go to the next picture then. And this was at the Naval Aircraft Factory, and I'm not sure, I think this was in Philadelphia maybe, I'm not sure. No, I'm sorry, that's the next picture, I think will be that. This was referred to as at least the picture was captioned, the Naval Aircraft Factory in October of 1918. This struck me because in 1918 we had only had, airplanes in the United States for about 15 years at this point. So obviously by World War I there were pilots. We did have planes in flight, entering in combat and so forth. But this flu shut down the Navy Yard. It said 30 deaths have already resulted. Spitting spread Spanish, influenza, don't spit. So anyway, they were trying to, I guess, prevent it from spreading, and obviously it was all over the military. All right, Lee, I think we've got one more in this collection. We'll bring this to a close here with this. This is actually an interesting, too. This was Philadelphia in 1918 had what they referred to as the Philadelphia Liberty Parade. It was held in September of 1918. And it was the largest parade in the city's history up to that point anyway, to raise money for the Liberty Loan Campaign. 2 days later, just to give you an idea of how severe and how rampant this virus could be, 2 days after this parade was held, the illness, the Spanish flu, was widespread throughout Philadelphia. So you talk about social distancing and what happened when they did not social distance during the Spanish flu. Obviously, it was just devastating, not only to Philadelphia, but again, this flu went around the world. So, okay, Lee, I thought that was the last one, but I believe there's one more in this grouping. This is UNC Chapel Hill, and it was in 1919, and this was in this same collection of pictures, and it was a little write-up about it. It said, University of North Carolina President Edward Kidder Graham died from pneumonia, a common secondary infection during the pandemic, on 26 October 1918, 2 weeks after his 42nd birthday. Marvin Hendricks Stacy became the acting university president following Graham's death, and Stacy died from the flu less than 3 months later at age 41. So the University of North Carolina lost two presidents literally in a span of 3 months from the Spanish flu. So, okay, Lee, I'll tell you what, let's do. Bring it back to me. This is a good time to take a break. And folks, during the break, if you got any information to shed on the little brown jug storage building, give us a call. Think about it if anything comes to mind. And when we come back from the break, we've got some pictures to show you from some North Carolina history going back to the Civil War, courtesy of Mr. Wallace Abernathy. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back in a few minutes with more Wayback Wednesday.
Wayback Wednesday, sponsored by Flora's Glass and Mirror Company, servicing the area since 1977 with residential and commercial work.
Does sorting through Medicare make you feel like this? Don't worry. Be happy. For any of your Medicare questions, just a simple call to your local team of licensed, customer-friendly agents can get you from here to there. Imagine getting the most out of your Medicare. Call 833-232-8880.
Hello, my name is Gus Tullis of Gus Tullis Insurance, and I've been helping people with their insurance needs for well over 20 years. If you're turning 65 or you're currently on Medicare, I can help you make the best decision for the Medicare plan that will suit your needs. Don't wait. Call me today. I'll answer any question you have. 252-937-6913. Looking forward to hearing from you.
I'm Daniel Moss, owner of Cornerstone Funeral Home, and I'd like to invite you and your family to give our family an opportunity to serve you in your time of need. And we offer a full line of funeral services, everything from visitations to graveside services to cremations on site with a live crematory, as well as a banquet hall to meet the catering needs of our families that we serve. We offer catering service, we offer refreshments prior to visitations and services of our family, and we want to invite you to come and experience the difference here at Cornerstone Funeral Home.
When faced with special care needs for elderly or disabled loved ones, families want compassionate, comforting care. That's Tender Touch Home Care Services' goal, providing the level of care we would expect for our own. With over 10 years of home care excellence, Tender Touch provides an array of services that keeps your loved one at home. From personal care, light housekeeping, errands, and meal preparation, to our private duty care program, which combines all of our home care offerings in one package.
Tender Touch Home Care Services, where your needs are our concern.
We're in our 18th year of practice at the Hammer Chiropractic Center, and we've seen over 15,000 different people in the Rocky Mount area. 40% of headaches actually come from a neck problem. Many patients come in taking multiple aspirin, over-the-counter medications and such a day, and we can get you to stop doing that and actually fix the problem so the headaches don't rise anymore. A lot of people think chiropractic hurts. It does not. Most of the people come in and they feel great when they leave.
You're now watching Wayback Wednesday, sponsored by Flores Glass and Mirror Company, servicing the area since 1977 with residential and commercial work.
All right, we're back. Folks, we're just tuning in. You're watching Wayback Wednesday. I'm Randy Adcox. Thanks for joining us. Before the break, we've talked a little bit about the Spanish flu, obviously, and how detrimental and how devastating it was to the entire country, and in fact, indeed, the whole world. And there's some parallels, obviously, between Spanish flu and what we're facing now, this COVID-19 stuff. I got to be honest, I'm not real keen on wearing a mask. If I'm asked to, I will. But obviously in 1918, the Spanish flu was a much more deadly flu, pandemic, whatever you want to call it, than what we're dealing with now. And but I just thought it was interesting the parallels that were in place then, particularly as it related to telling people to cover your mouth when you cough and sneeze and so forth, and wearing a mask and all that kind of stuff. So, and also, before I forget, I'm going to mention this several times during the show because I'm really hoping someone can shed some light on this little brown jug storage building. This thing it piqued my interest when I was being told about it by Mr. Spain. But if you're just tuning in and you missed the first part of the show, we were talking about apparently sometime, and I'm guessing this is in the 1940s, perhaps 1950s, a gentleman somewhere around the 700 block of Nashville Road, which for those familiar with that part of Rocky Mount, if you're headed east on Nashville Road, it's after you go through Williford Town, cross over Raleigh Street, or Raleigh Road, I guess it is. Teeny Johnson's used to be a gas station, and he just sells tires and stuff there on the corner. You keep on going past that a block or two. On the left-hand side in the 700 block, this gentleman apparently built a storage building in his yard, and he intentionally built it to look like a little brown jug. It was made out of brick. He covered the brick in stucco and then painted the bottom part kind of an off-white or beige, I guess, and then painted the top part brown so it looked like a little whiskey jug, or Mr. Spang used the term Jimmy jug. I had never heard the phrase Jimmy jug before, but anyway, something I thought would have been neat to find a picture of, and I have not yet had a chance to go to the library and do any digging. So if anyone remembers that or remembers anything about that, give us a call. Mr. Spain was just looking for someone else who remembered it. He said he remembered it as a child. Apparently he grew up in that neighborhood and just was hoping to find someone who knew something about it other than what he remembered. So, okay. At the top of the show, too, I mentioned that I'd been sent some pictures a couple of weeks back from another one of our faithful viewers, Mr. Wallace Abernathy, and I've been the recipient of a couple different what I call data drops from people who send pictures to me like this, and I'm always greatly appreciative of that. So, and I've said many times, if you've got any pictures or any old memorabilia, particularly of Rocky Mount, Eastern North Carolina, this area, and you'd like to have it shared on the show, give me a call. You can reach me at 252-883-1123 after hours, certainly during the show at 407-1111. You can also email me at randy@csorm.com, and we'll get you pictures or any other memorabilia you may have on the air at one of the shows. Mr. Abernathy sent me some information about a Confederate warship in a battle that took place in 1864, May of 1864. It was the Confederate ship, the Ram Albemarle. And so apparently there was a battle between the Confederate forces and the Union forces, of course, and the smokestack, this ship had a smokestack, as many did back then. It was probably steam powered, obviously, and but during the battle, this smokestack got really shot up badly, and apparently it was recovered sometime after the war from a scrap metal sale up in Norfolk, and it was actually included in a month-long display at the State Fair in 1884. So I want to read a little bit to you about this is something that Mr. Abernathy sent to me also I thought was very interesting, and I'll show you a picture in a minute that goes along with this article. But this article was referred to as the North Carolina Exposition of 1884, and it's got a picture of the main building of the State Fairgrounds then. And so anyway, this is the main building of North Carolina Exposition of 1844. Images from the North Carolina Digital Collection. The North Carolina Exposition of 1884, promoting the agricultural and mechanical arts, was an important step in the progress of the state's industrial growth. The aim of the exposition was to boost North Carolina's industrial development and propel the state to a leadership position in the New South. The event was also designed in part to demonstrate to residents and outsiders alike that the state had recovered from the Civil War. The exposition was held in October 1884 on a 55-acre tract on the north side of Hillsborough Street in Raleigh, the site of the North Carolina State Fair from 1873 to 1925. The exposition's history is linked to the development of its neighbor on the south side of Hillsborough Street, the North Carolina College of Agriculture and Mechanic Arts, the present-day North Carolina State University. Exposition President William Primrose, a Raleigh insurance executive, served as the first chairman of the trustees of that land-grant college, chartered in 1887. In 1884, Primrose organized the state's business elite behind his idea of a large exposition. Such exhibitions were then in vogue, with the 1876 Philadelphia Exposition counted as a major success. The date of the North Carolina Exposition was selected to coincide with the 300th anniversary of the first Roanoke voyages. The organizational meeting took place on 30 January at State Capitol, where Primrose took the leadership role and Salem businessman Henry E. Fries was elected secretary. In the weeks following, Primrose and Fries scoured the state, drumming up interest in the exposition. They had the assistance of 9 vice presidents representing each of the state's congressional districts. Fries also made out-of-state visits to population centers along the East Coast, in time visiting more than 350 companies to promote the event. a massive square exhibition building measuring 336 feet on each side with a 100-foot square courtyard in each quadrant was constructed over the course of the summer. The exposition operated from October 1 to November 1 of 1884 with the traditional North Carolina State Fair and the State Fair for blacks as adjuncts. Who else knew there was a separate state fair for blacks? I did not. That's news to me right there. On display were the finest products of the state's forests, farms, mines, and factories. Counties competed for the best exhibit, with those representing Durham and Forsyth generally judged to be the best. Many North Carolinians gained their first introduction to electric lights at the exposition. It all constituted one of the most impressive displays in North Carolina history. Attendance, however, estimated at 60,000 over the course of 4 weeks, failed to meet the expectations of organizers. Even more disappointingly, no large-scale northern investment resulted from the event despite the best hopes of the planners. Fries in 1912 wrote to state leaders to inquire about the 1884 exposition impact. All agreed that the exposition had boosted commerce and had inspired numerous North Carolinians who returned to their communities with new enthusiasm for industrial development. So, as it turns out, and for those that watch every week, you know, we talked about the original location of the State Fair and where it was prior to its current location. Lee, I'll tell you what, go ahead and pull that first picture up, because this is a picture of that smokestack. First of all, I wanted to share that picture from the CSS Ram Albemarle. And this was the one that was shot up in the battle with the Union forces. There you go. This is a artist rendering. This was April 19th, 1864 at 5:45 a.m. And as you can see, the ships that were engaged in heavy battle there. And the one kind of to your right there with the smoke coming up, that would have been the CSS Ram Albemarle. And that smokestack, as you see there, with the smoke billowing out of it, took a lot of damage. In fact, Lee, if you would, let's go to the next picture. Because when it was recovered, and it's hard to see in this old black and white picture, but over on the left-hand side of your screen here, and Lee, you might can zoom in a little bit on this. That's a little, this is a little display here where this smokestack was the original smokestack, had been acquired from the shipyard up in Norfolk and put on display. And like I said, in the left-hand side of this picture, you see a tubular, tall, standing item there with a bunch of holes all in it. Those are the holes that were left in that smokestack from the cannon fire from that battle that had taken place 20 years earlier during the Civil War. All right, tell you what, Lee, let's go to the next picture then. This next picture. Okay, this is the actual exposition building right here. I don't think this building is still in existence. Maybe someone can shed some light on that. I don't recall seeing anything that looked like this. But this was the location of the 1884 exposition and, of course, the State Fair. And it says it was a 55-acre tract on the north side of Hillsborough Street in Raleigh, which, again, was the site of the State Fair from 1873 until 1925. And so anyway, as you can see, this was it was actually 4 individual buildings, I guess you'd say, all connected together there. And so during the 1 month long run of this exposition, there were some, I think I read 60,000, is that what I said earlier? 60,000 people came. So they had, 60,000, estimated to be 60,000 over the course of 4 weeks. So I think at least by attendance, to get 60,000 visitors to an event in 1884 would have been considered a success. So anyway, the next picture, Lee, let's go to the next one. This was actually a write-up that took place, and there you go on the right-hand side, you can see that was the actual smokestack, and you can see the bullet holes and cannon holes, and I mean it was just shot up. It's a miracle that it ever survived, but apparently it, and of course that's a representation there, I guess, of the actual Confederate ship that's to your left. I'm not sure what happened to the ship. I'll try to get some more information on that. My guess is it was probably scrapped after the war was over with, because it suffered quite a bit of damage too, I'm sure. But in any case, for whatever reason, someone was able to salvage and hang on to the smokestack. And it was, like I say, on display at the State Exposition there in 1884. Okay, Lee, let's go to the next picture then. And this next one, I believe, there you go. This was from what I gathered, and I tried to read through this article, I kind of glanced over, but it looks like this was a reproduction, I think. Mr. Abernathy, if you're watching, if I'm incorrect here, please feel free to call in and correct me, but I think this was a project for a museum, and I want to say, Lee, can you zoom in on this? I glanced over this earlier, and I apologize. I should have actually printed this off so I could have it in my hand. That's the story on the left-hand side there, the story of the battle in 1864. But I think, if I remember reading correctly, I think this was a reproduction that Mr. Abernathy and another gentleman put together for a museum. And I think, Lee, let's go to I think the next picture may give a little more information about this. They're working on it right there. And I think, and don't quote me, I may be wrong, but I think this was a museum exhibit that these two gentlemen were working on. And I thought I remember seeing somewhere in the article where the museum was. And I'm sure it is in there somewhere. I should have made a note, and I apologize for not doing that. But that's a pretty bold undertaking there to try to reproduce a smokestack that had been heavily damaged in a battle during the Civil War. But hats off to people who have the initiative to take on a project like that. That's because obviously there's only one of those smokestacks still in existence, and so to recreate that and have an exhibit here in North Carolina, that was pretty special. So, okay, Lee, I tell you what, I think there may be one more in this segment. I'm not sure because there was about 3 pages in this article, and there you go, replica smokestack construction. And there's, as you can see, the sequence of events that took place, and the final product there in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. And as you can see, this thing was probably 8 or 10 feet tall, just judging by the height of these gentlemen here. So this was, again, it was a pretty massive undertaking to recreate this badly damaged smokestack from a warship that had been in the battle 100 and some years earlier. So, okay, Lee, let's go to the next one then. And I think, there you go. This is actually, I believe, is this picture number 15, Lee? I think it is. I think it's number 50. Okay. This is the one that's on display in the museum right here. This was the reproduction here. So, all right, Lee, I'll tell you what, bring it back to me. We'll go ahead and take another break here, folks. Again, if you need to get yourself something to snack on, last week's show we had a little fun with the snacky poo, but for those who are not familiar with the snacky poo, that's a little quick snack you can get your hands on, get it in, get it down, and enjoy yourself there. So if you need a bathroom break or get something to drink, go ahead and take care of those personal items, and we'll be right back in a few minutes with more Wayback Wednesday.
You're now watching Wayback Wednesday, sponsored by Flora's Glass and Mirror Company, servicing the area since 1977 with residential and commercial work.
Does sorting through Medicare make you feel like this? Don't worry. Be happy. For any of your Medicare questions, just a simple call to your local team of licensed, customer-friendly agents can get you from here to there. Imagine getting the most out of your Medicare. Call 833-232-8880.
Hello, my name is Gus Tullis of Gus Tullis Insurance, and I've been helping people with their insurance needs for well over 20 years. If you're turning 65 or you're currently on Medicare, I can help you make the best decision for the Medicare plan that will suit your needs. Don't wait. Call me today. I'll answer any question you have. 252-937-6913. Looking forward to hearing from you.
I'm Daniel Moss, owner of Cornerstone Funeral Home, and I'd like to invite you and your family to give our family an opportunity to serve you in your time of need. And we offer a full line of funeral services, everything from visitations to graveside services to cremations on site with a live crematory, as well as a banquet hall to meet the catering needs of our families that we serve. We offer catering service. We offer refreshments prior to visitations and services of our family, and we want to invite you to come and experience the difference here at Cornerstone Funeral Home.
When faced with special care needs for elderly or disabled loved ones, families want compassionate, comforting care. That's Tender Touch Home Care Services' goal, providing the level of care we would expect for our own. With over 10 years of home care excellence, Tender Touch provides an array of services that keeps your loved one at home. From personal care, light housekeeping, errands, and meal preparation, to our private duty care program, which combines all of our home care offerings in one package.
Tender Touch Home Care Services, where your needs are our concern.
We're in our 18th year of practice at the Hammer Chiropractic Center, and we've seen over 15,000 different people in the Rocky Mount area. 40% of headaches actually come from a neck problem. Many patients come in taking multiple aspirin, over-the-counter medications and such a day, and we can get you to stop doing that and actually fix the problem so the headaches don't rise anymore. A lot of people think chiropractic hurts. It does not. Most of the people come in and they feel great when they leave.
You're now watching Wayback Wednesday, sponsored by Flores Glass and Mirror Company, servicing the area since 1977 with residential and commercial work.
And we're back. Folks, for just tuning in, this is Randy Adcox. You're watching Wayback Wednesday. That was a smokestack there on the TV before I came on the view. If you did just tune in, we were talking about some North Carolina history, and as a history buff and a self-professed history guru, that's not to imply anything more than an avid interest in history, by the way. There's a lot about North Carolina history that we tend to kind of gloss over. We don't really talk about as much as we should, I think. And sadly, too much of our history is being destroyed on a daily basis by people who just are either don't care about history or just not knowledgeable enough to want to preserve it. But we've many times on this show we've talked about the buildings, especially the houses and homes that have been destroyed in Rocky Mount. We've lost a lot of fine old homes and buildings, commercial buildings, properties, so forth. And as someone who's a firm believer in that we should preserve history whenever possible, it really saddens me to hear about any time that history is just so casually discarded or wiped out, either by the stroke of a politician's hand or by the calloused and uncaring actions of those who would prefer to tear something down than try to understand it. So I don't want to get into politics here. That's not the format of this show, and we're not going to delve into politics. But I mentioned that because when I was looking at these pictures of the CSS Ram Albemarle, the smokestack and so forth, I couldn't help but remember, from my early days in history class and so forth. Some of you may not know, North Carolina paid a very heavy price. Oh, we got a call. Let's get this call. Hello there, you on the air? Hello, caller.
How you doing?
Hey, great. How you doing?
I'm good for an old man.
Well, that's great. That's great.
All right. Now, you keep mentioning history.
Yes, sir.
And I am so concerned with what the oligarchy has done to our history.
Yes, sir.
I mean, it is nothing to what is being taught in school. And if you could, in your research, bring up the time that the war of the Tuscaroras occurred in North Carolina.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
That's the greatest war that was ever fought here. And bring up the settlement of Tarboro. Well, when Tarboro was settled, the settlers came up the Tar River to a place called the Falls.
That's right.
And we called it Battle Park. Well, history has completely done away with that, and it's not only tragic, it's sinful for what the oligarchy has done to our history. So if you can come across any of that information, we watch your show, appreciate it, and thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your viewership and for your input. I really appreciate it. Have a good night. You know, I couldn't have said it better myself. And before the caller, I was just going to bring up that during the Civil War, North Carolina had more troops committed to the war effort. We lost more troops, more casualties than any other of the Confederate states. You know, setting aside whether or not you agree with the basic premise of the war and whether or not it should have even been fought in the first place, these people sacrificed. You know, these soldiers sacrificed. And like soldiers to this day, the vast majority were following orders. They did what they were asked to do, many times with little or no pay. Toward the end of the war especially, many of them had very minimal supplies. Some were literally barefooted with clothes, rags hanging off their bodies. And yet they served honorably because they were asked to do so. And so I just feel very strongly that there's an awful lot of our history that the younger generation is not being taught about, number one, and that's sad that this rich history of our state is not being taught. And number two, as I said earlier, it's troubling to me that without having a firm understanding of history, it's become so easy to cast aside and literally just erase history with the stroke of a politician's pen or the actions of some people who just really have no interest in knowing, learning, or preserving history. So I'll get off my stump box now and we'll get back to the pictures. By the way, I said before, if you've got any pictures you'd like to share, feel free anytime. You can call us 407-1111 here during the show. You can call me on my cell phone, 252-883-1123. You can send me an email, randy@csorm.com. And as I said a while ago, I don't want to delve into politics. I don't want the show to go off track. My focus and my interest here is history in general, certainly Rocky Mount, Nash, Edgecombe history, Eastern North Carolina history. And we want to keep that the focus of the show. But as part of that, we're occasionally going to show some pictures of things that are controversial. Obviously, history is controversial, and you can go back in any country in the world and find controversial history, but it's still history. And so I think it is worth preserving and learning more about. So with that being said, Lee, let's go back. I think there might have been one more picture that we didn't get to before the break. And if we did, it's okay. We can go ahead to this next picture if we did. Okay, yeah, okay, that was the last one. This picture here caught my eye. It's referred to, the caption of this picture was Williams Lumber Company, Enfield, North Carolina, circa 1950s. Now, I think I know where this was. In fact, as a small child, I remember traveling up 301 North and going out past Brattleboro and up that way on the left-hand side. I believe this picture is basically the top part of the picture on the left-hand side would be 301, and the bottom, 301 headed south, and toward the bottom of your picture would be 301, where it curves there anyway, would be headed north. If I'm correct in what I'm thinking there, because I remember there being a lumber yard in operation out there, and we got a call. Someone knows about this. Hello there, you're on the air.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I sure can.
All right, you're looking at the picture there where the Williams Lumber Company was.
Right.
And the road over there on the left-hand side, that camera is looking south towards, I think it's Fishing Creek.
Okay.
That's the curve right there where Williams Lumber Company used to be.
Right.
Where Haggerty's moved that place down to Mackey's, down in the eastern part of the state. They were there in 1950, I guess, and then it became the property, I think, of Georgia Pacific. And the road bed right there on the right-hand side is where the railroad tracks are, and looking off to the right and up, that's the railroad tracks going south towards Rocky Mount.
Mm-hmm.
This site is on the south side of Enfield.
Right. Right.
It was a somewhat large facility. 1950, I was 6 years old, but in the 70s, I did some electrical work up there when I worked for Industrial Electric at the point in time when it belonged to Georgia Pacific.
Yeah, and you mentioned Fishing Creek. I believe the upper left-hand corner of this picture, there's a bridge, it looks like to me, and I believe that is the Fishing Creek Bridge, don't you think?
Right. That curve in the road right there, as it goes to the upper part of the shot, the photograph, that's southbound US 301.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good night. Okay. Yeah, I was, and actually I stumbled across this picture, by the way. I was doing a Google search earlier today for image archives, and I often do that just to see what comes up. And I've mentioned this before, but there is a bunch of pictures. I mean, thousands and thousands of pictures of eastern North Carolina. It's almost overwhelming, in fact, to try to go in there and find something specific. So what I end up doing more often than not is just delving into it and just thumbing through the pictures and seeing what I could come up with. And lo and behold, while I was thumbing through these hundreds of pictures, this one popped into view, and I said, okay, I think I know where this is. But anyway, it was identified as the Williams Lumber Company, Enfield, circa 1950s. And as Eric was just saying, that operation was a fairly extensive. You can tell by the layout there. There was a lot going on there, and sadly that's no longer that big of an operation apparently, but it was at one time. So, all right, Lee, I'll tell you what. Let's go to the next picture. We're changing gears quite a bit here. There's no real theme here, folks. So don't try to tie all these together. But after last week's show, I was a little surprised to be thumbing along in this same archive, and lo and behold, I ran across a picture of the Rocky Mount Fair from 1968. And this image right here particularly is one that was very vivid in my mind because I have some very good memories of going to the Rocky Mount Fair with my family, my mother, my father, my brother, my sister. And one of the highlights of the Rocky Mount Fair, for me anyway, was going to the food booths over there and ordering a hot dog or a cheeseburger, sometimes both, and sitting at the picnic tables out there beside the food booths there and eating our fair meal. So, like I said, I did not anticipate, was not even looking for anything particularly fair related, but lo and behold, in this collection of digital archives, I found this picture from the Rocky Mount Fair from 1968. And as a matter of fact, there was a few other pictures that were in the same collection, and I'm thinking these are Charlie Killebrew pictures, frankly. I've seen some other Charlie Killebrew pics, and it looks like this is obviously, if you look at the top of this picture, you can see the edge of the 35 millimeter film, and so these were, I guess, developed from negatives, but in any case, I'm not positive, but I think these are probably Charlie Killebrew pics. But there was two others in particular that were in the same grouping, and I'm just not sure they were from Rocky Mount, even though this one here was from Rocky Mount Fair. So Lee, let's go to the next picture in this group here, and this was simply entitled Movie Theater Soundboard 1951. So, if you think back to 1951, certainly the Center Theater was in operation, the Cameo Theater was in operation. There was another theater, the name escapes me now, down toward the Rick's Hotel down there, in that general area down there, that I think, I'm not positive, but I think it was in operation too. So I don't know, I don't recognize the background here, but it was identified as a movie theater soundboard from 1951. So if anyone recognizes any of this, and I don't know how many folks had an opportunity to go back and actually get this close to a movie theater soundboard in the 1950s. And as I said, we got a call. Maybe someone recognizes this. Hello, you're on the air.
All right, the other theater you were talking about that was in Rocky Mount down south of where you were speaking of, that was the Carolina Theater. It was in the block just 2 or 3 doors north of the Belt Tyler store.
There you go. That's it, Carolina Theater. I couldn't remember the name of it, but that's exactly right.
All right.
Thank you, buddy. Have a good night. You know, that reminds me, too, talking about theaters, I happened to run into Bubba Thompson this week, and Bubba and his sisters are, in fact, compiling some information for a segment that we're going to do on their father, Ray Thompson. For many of you who watch the show each week, you know his name has come up a couple times as being one of the more interesting former citizens of Rocky Mount. I had the great honor and privilege of knowing Ray Thompson, and he was indeed a remarkable man, and he had a very, very storied and very varied life. But Bubba told me that he actually managed and ran a couple different movie theaters during his time here in Rocky Mount. That was something I never knew about him. But in any case, they're getting some pictures together and some memorabilia, and so in an upcoming show, we're going to do a segment. It may not be a whole show. It may just be a short segment. We're going to do a segment on Ray Thompson. So stay tuned. Lee, I think we got one more picture in this grouping here. We'll go ahead and knock that out. And again, this was all in the same grouping, and this was, I've seen this name before, but it was captioned as being Artcraft, ARTCRAFT, Artcraft Glass Company, 1951. And this was some kind of promotion that the Artcraft Glass Company was doing at a theater. Now again, I'm not sure if it was one of the Rocky Mount theaters. It was in this same grouping that had the Rocky Mount Fair of 1968, but it was just captioned Artcraft Glass Company 1951, and I think it did say promotion or something along those lines. But you can see the curtain behind it. It was obviously in a movie theater somewhere. So I just thought it was a neat picture from the 1950s, and like I said, it could have been here in Rocky Mount. It may not have been. We won't know for sure, but perhaps it was. All right, Lee, bring it back to me. Folks, that's going to about do it for us tonight. We've about run slam out of time for the night show. I want to thank you again for tuning in and sharing your memories with us. Those that call in always are appreciated. And if anyone can run across anybody, if you happen to know someone you think might have some information about the Little Brown Jug Storage Building, get in touch with them and then get in touch with me. I really would like to find out more about this. And I also had a caller, I think it was last week's show, to ask about pictures from the Tip Top Bakery. I thought I had some, and I looked today, in fact, and what I had was not the Tip Top Bakery at all, so my apologies. But I will see if I can find some. And while on the topic, if anyone has got a picture or pictures of the Tip Top Bakery, give me a call. I'll get with you. We'll scan them. We'll get them on the show for a future show anyway. Folks, that's going to do it for us tonight. We've run slam out of time. Thanks again for watching. Have yourselves a great week, folks. Take care of each other and be kind to each other, too. We'll see you next week with more Wayback Wednesday. Good night.
Sponsored by Flores Glass and Mirror Company. Servicing the area since 1977 with residential and commercial work.